Straight people, what burning questions do you have about the LGBTQ community? There are estimated to be over 70 million asexuals in the world, which means that we can easily overpower the Danish military. Don't worry, we won't hurt the citizens, and we'll make it a great country. Edit, I know Denmark is already a great country, I've been there once, loved it, and in general I know it's a good country. In my country I think the shift is definitely more positive towards acceptance. Teenagers now just don't care what you identify as. When I came out, my teenage sisters were just like yeah, and then told me about their friends' identity and their own. It was a normal conversation, not weird or hushed. These kinds of things is difficult to accurately pinpoint. I think in the Western world, at least socially, it is seen as backwards being homophobic, or like not supporting, for instance, pride. Plus the fact like Poland and Hungary make laws against LGBT plus people is seen as violation of human rights, and come from another perspective of being the gay cause. And I think the fact that most people are eager to define themselves as having a different gender or sexuality suggests that it is easy to be more open, or welcomed. I think those that are trans face the most oppression, both politically, legally and socially. But just think that back in 2008 Obama was not publicly in favor of gay marriage. Today it seems almost inevitable that most Democrats are in favor of gay marriage. This is mostly true in Western countries as well. So I think there is progress, but still a ton of work that needs to be done. I think half the battle is the political, legal thing. If that becomes easier, it will help with the social issues as well. From the US, I've been open since 1990. Things have changed dramatically. When I came out I received death threats. There was almost no positive representation in the media. A member of the armed forces could be imprisoned for being gay. Open displays of affection were dangerous. Going to a pride parade was terrifying. The death threats were terrible. People said they would be waiting in a window with a sniper rifle. We went anyway. It's very nice now. I still get nervous with open displays. My partner is quite a bit younger. He has no problems with it. I try to just do it. It's scary, but I have to be able to be myself. Good question. Dating women can be tough for the simple reason that there aren't loads of us and we have a pretty small dating pool. This is especially true if you live in a small town or village. Most LGBT hangout spots are in cities. A lot of us also prefer not to make the first move, because we worry about coming off as pushy. This has often led to two sapphic women who fancy each other anxiously waiting for the other to make the first move forever. I am really lucky in that I met my girlfriend by chance at uni and we just hit it off. A lot of other lesbians are lonely for a really long time. Yes, it is very difficult. That's why if we still like each other after the second date, we move in together. Gotta lock down the relationship ASAP. In all seriousness, yeah, it is. You don't know someone's sexuality by just looking at them, and it's not the easiest to bring up in conversation. In my case, I knew my partner in high school when she was dating a guy and hadn't seen her for a few years. When we started hanging out again towards the end of our college years, she casually mentioned her girlfriend at the time, and that was how I found out she was, at the very least, bi. My gaydar didn't detect that she was into women, so when she became available, that's when we got together. I used to be. I still don't flirt unless I know they're not straight, but if a guy has a nice haircut, or a cool shirt or hat or mask or whatever, I'll say something. Brightens their day. I love when people compliment my wardrobe. After all, edit, for all the people who are wondering about the sort of guys who would get their hackles up at a compliment from another guy. Personal anecdote, I grew up in the southeastern US, 90s, very conservative area, very close to Alabama, very homophobic. Like hell yeah, Matthew Shepard got what was coming to him, homophobic. So, those sorts of guys, lot of us LGBTQ plus folks gotta develop defense mechanisms to get by. Seconding the bicycle comment, you can spend a few days thinking, oh god, what if I was actually straight this whole time? And then a few days thinking, oh god, what if I was actually gay this whole time? It's exhausting. Many people have asked about why use labels at all. But a lot of people find labels comforting. Also, it's not so much about the specific label as it is feeling like your attraction has changed. Imagine you consider yourself to be attracted to blonde TS and brunette TS, but sometimes you wonder if you're actually attracted to brunette TS at all, or vice versa. It's like that but with your entire sexuality. Yes. And it is very lonely and difficult being a gay guy that doesn't like anal. I know because I'm that guy. I have no idea why, but TAS does not turn me on at all. I will never ever rim anyone, which is another thing that most gay guys want to get into. And the problem is that gay guys all identify themselves as a top or bottom or verse. I don't identify myself as any of them, so it makes it difficult. One of the standard questions on Grindr is, are you a top or bottom? To avoid awkwardness, I just say I am a top but tell them I am not looking for that tonight, which usually ends the conversation and no hook up for me. There are usually way more bottoms on Grindr all horny to get fucked and are not interested in anything else. It is very rare and hard to find a guy that just wants a blowjob or oral. And even if I do find a guy for oral and handjob fun, it's only for one time or maybe a few times before they get bored and want anal. There is always that moment where we have met up for fun a couple times and then they ask, so are you into anything else? And then I know it's over. Because they want anal and I don't. I just went through this a couple weeks ago. This is pretty much how all of my dating experiences end. We have fun a couple times, then they want more. And we stop dating. I have never been in a long-term relationship or ever gotten past maybe 4 or 5 dates before it ends. I have heard that other gay guys like me exist out there, but so far have never met one. For lesbians, bisexual women? If that's the right term, sorry. How do you know you're sexually, romantically attracted to women versus just interested in being friends? Because whenever I see a woman I think is attractive, I honestly can't tell if I'm sexually attracted to her or if I just want to be like her. Lol. Thanks so much for the responses. It's been really fun and enlightening to read about everyone's experiences. Definitely comforting to know a lot of people have this dilemma too, regardless of orientation. P.S. I feel like I am definitely biromantic. Cannot decide on bisexual because I really cannot imagine the sex without experiencing it. Speaking as a bi lady, even though sometimes it's hard to initially separate those feelings because women are objectively just so pretty, there's still a difference between actually feeling attracted to them versus wanting to be like them because they're pretty, interesting, inspiring, fun, etc. I think the key is if you feel weird imagining them in a sexual context, you're not attracted to them. If you feel turned on by the idea, you're into them. Disclaimer, because I've gotten a few responses of a similar kind, this is the way I personally have tried to figure out the difference between those feelings. It's definitely not a rule of thumb. Sexuality is a unique experience for everyone, and it would be great to hear how others have gone through this process. This is not an easy question to answer. Even in the community, there is still discourse over this. For example, historically there has been discourse on whether asexual people should be included in the community or not. I think the general consensus is a yes on that one. Also, I think sometimes it really just depends on the person. There's rarely ever any clear lines drawn with attraction and sexuality, so it really depends on the individual figuring out how they feel and deciding if they belong in the LGBTQ community. I mean, as long as you're not straight and cisgender, I guess. And if you ever see pedophilia and bestiality trying to worm their way in, that's a hard number. Fuck those guys. Go. Pissed I had to add that. My 15-year-old daughter came out to us a month ago. How do I best support her as her dad, knowing that her life will have additional challenges that I'm not experienced in? Many of my best friends throughout my life are LGBTQ. And I'd hoped that I had been, and still am, a supportive and loving friend, but wasn't necessarily in the role to be their shoulder to lean on or a mentor. With my daughter, I want to be her rock. I want to be able to give her comfort that I will do anything to help if things are tough. Perhaps this is the same as being a supporting father in any child's upbringing. However, I know she'll have more challenges. Am I overthinking this? I just want to be the best dad for her. I work in behavioral health, though not trained specifically in BH. I'm on the public health side, think destigmatizing BH issues and suicide prevention, but I also have experience in sexual and general health issues. As a community health-minded person, what's something we as public health or community members as a whole can do better to support LGBTQ+ community health issues that I as a straight man might not fully grasp? Edit. Good lord, I woke up to lots of responses. Lots of responses, my goodness. Thanks so much everyone for the feedback. I've been working in the field for a while and do most of what was said already, but the reinforcement is super helpful because it's not my lived experience, it's yours. Please know that your local clinic or community health workers, surveyors, front desk staff, peer group leaders, etc. really do care about your situation a fair amount of the time, and that things are changing, but healthcare is a bitch and I have to steer. On the public health side, most if not all of us want you all to be healthy and happy, so please reach out if you are ever going through a tough or scary time. What's it like to be asexual? I obviously know roughly the idea, but just cannot imagine not having a sex drive, as it occupies my brain a lot. It actually sounds like quite a relief. Does the term transvestite still exist? I haven't seen anyone referred as that for a long time. I always think they or them sounds really impersonal. Are gender non-conforming people generally happy with this term though? Is a transgender male a man who wants to change genders, or a woman who has changed genders to a man? And vice versa. I am really sorry if any of these come across as insensitive. I'm really just trying to educate myself so I don't make any more missteps in the future. Edit. Wow. So many insightful and helpful replies so quickly. Thanks so much everyone. Genuinely learning from these. Edit 2. This is totally cringeworthy, I'm sure, but can I just say, I am overwhelmed by the genuine, honest replies without anyone criticizing or judging. Thank you so much everyone. I have read every reply, and I appreciate all of you taking the time to help me become more educated and aware. Edit 3. So, thanks to you guys, I now know that being asexual does not mean that you have no sex drive, and is an enormous spectrum of different and unique feelings and perspectives. Transvestite is largely outdated and considered transphobic in many circles, and is largely to do with a kink. An analogy I really love to describe asexuality is to imagine if you were suddenly transported to a world where everything was the same, except when people are sexually attracted to each other. Instead of having sex, they go bowling. So you, having just been dropped onto this world, could have had any kind of relation to bowling. You could be a professional bowler. You could work at a bowling alley. You could just see it as a fun thing to do sometimes if your partner suggests it, but you wouldn't really think much of doing otherwise. You could dislike bowling because you hate the way the bowling floor squeaks under your shoes. You could just see bowling as another activity you could do. But wouldn't you rather go biking or play laser tag instead? In this new world, you would be considered asexual regardless of your interest in bowling, because no matter where you stand on bowling, you will never look at your spouse or someone attractive and immediately think, damn, you know what I really want to do right now? I'd really like to take them bowling. You're not going to dedicate a solid chunk of your attention towards specifically envisioning your partner in bowling shoes, hitting a strike, unless you're into that. Odd. So in the same analogy, aces can have any affiliation with sex. They can love to have it, feel repulsed by it, be a sex worker, feel utterly indifferent about it, the whole spectrum. They can love people romantically and have long, fulfilling relationships. The only thing absent is that innate desire to have sex with the specific person they are attracted to. Hope this helps. It's definitely a really strange concept to grasp, especially since romantic and sexual attraction are often confused as one. Hey, ace person here. Asexuality actually varies a lot, and while some people don't have a sex drive, a lot still do. Being asexual is more about a lack of sexual attraction to people. For example, when I look at someone who would be considered attractive, I've never thought that I would want to sleep with them. Some asexual people don't mind sex, some are completely repulsed by it. Most asexual people will still masturbate too. It's not about libido, just the lack of attraction. Edit: I'm really not great at explaining all the nuances of asexuality, so I'm gonna recommend checking out our Asexuality if you've got questions. Unfortunately, a lot of people seem to think that bisexuals are individuals who are too afraid to fully come out of the closet, so they still have one foot into straight territory. Others take it as a personal attack, that you're being disloyal to one, or more, of the genders you're attracted to, and you are apparently only allowed to choose one side. It's rather disheartening and disgusting to see. I'm sorry for any bisexual people, including yourself, that have to experience such behavior from others, whether it's from straight individuals or others in the LGBT community. No matter what anyone else says, you, and any other bisexual who may be reading this, are valid. That's a difficult question. I personally put it down to jealousy and triggering internalized homophobia, trauma. When I was younger and still in the closet, recently come out, I would have given anything to be straight, to be able to fit into society, have natural kids, etc. At the time, my only consolation was that it wasn't a choice or was just who I was. Talking to other gay people helps to reassure that. Back then, I saw people who were bi as having the choice at the normal life I do dearly wanted and choosing not to have it, and the stirred up anger, jealousy, which was in reality bi-held beliefs that gay people were inherently inferior. My views now are very different, of course, as I've matured and come to terms with myself. I don't give a toss what people identify as and just want people to be happy. I should also add I was never hostile towards bi people, but I certainly used to feel conflicted by it. I should also add that now, 2 of my closest friends are bi, in an opposite-sex relationship with each other, and aside from my fiancé, none of my friends are gay. So very much over that mindset. I cannot give you an actual reason, but as a shot in the dark it might be connected to the us and them mentality every person is prone to on some degree. A lot of people get very caught up on giving their in and out groups solid outlines, and bi people muddle those lines for some. The can't make up their minds narrative is an obvious one, but I'll give you another example. I've seen people claim bi people don't count because they can blend in if they're in a heterosexual relationship. If one defines being the visible odd one out in any given social situation as a rule for what makes up their in-group, blending in like that will be seen as breaking a rule and invading something, especially when it's people who are prone to centering the many negative experiences they've gone through as a bonding experience. I disagree with this narrative and way of thinking, but this is the best way I can explain it. Hope it made sense. Edit: sorry about the caps lock, it's just to grab attention, but please don't skip the part of the comment stating I don't agree with these lines of logic either. I was merely forwarding information, since someone asked. This is stated right above this edit. I can't answer for a group of people I'm not part of, so asking me or trying to convince me of things I already agree with is kind of futile. When I was in high school, you could only get LGBTQ+ merch at Hot Topic in my town, so I had friends who weren't allowed to shop at Hot Topic. People wouldn't watch Ellen, things like that. Shortly after high school, people tried boycotting JCPenney, and anybody else who put 2 mums in a commercial or put rainbows on a box of food. Now, they can't do that. You can't refuse to take your kids to Walmart or just not buy them school clothes, and even the Target boycotts because of the bathroom drama lasted all of a couple of months. Moms may not buy rainbow Oreos, but kids will see them on shelves in the stores, and just like my friends' parents were worried about, they'll know they aren't alone. I made life-changing decisions when I was still very young because of the laws in the US. I'm happy I didn't join the military or marry the partner I had out of high school, but how many stories like mine didn't work out so well? Sure, it's a cheap ply for more cash from corporations that don't care about us at all, but one lesbian couple or one trans kid on TV, one rainbow icon on social media, could make all the difference. And it definitely means we're more popular than we were when I was a kid.